All right, let's talk about AI agents. Today, we are going to map out the entire journey to mastering them from scratch. Forget all the hype you've heard. We're talking about going from that very first line of code all the way to building these complex autonomous systems. Think of this as your roadmap.
So you've seen the headlines, right? AI agents are everywhere. But let's cut through the noise. Beyond all the buzzwords, what's the actual path to building one of these things? How do you go from just a cool idea to a smart system that can genuinely do stuff in the real world? Well, that's exactly the journey we're going to map out.
Okay, to make this whole thing easier to grasp, I want you to think of this journey like a mountain climbing expedition. And you know what? Every single great climb starts at the same place, base camp. So this first section, it's all about gearing up, laying that solid foundation before we even think about starting the climb. And look, any expedition, any climb requires the right gear. It's just common sense. Trying to build an AI agent without solid software fundamentals, honestly, it's like trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. It's just not going to work. It is a recipe for disaster. These basics, they are absolutely not optional.
So when I say fundamentals, what am I actually talking about? Well, here's a quick self-check for you. Do you really know the difference between class-based and function-based design in Python? Think of it this way. Class-based design is like creating a blueprint for something that needs to remember stuff over time, which, hey, sounds a lot like an agent, right? Function-based design, on the other hand, is more like a simple command for a one-and-done task. Just knowing which one to pick for the job is a huge sign that you're ready to start climbing.
All right, so let's pack your bag. Here's your essential toolkit. These are the absolute non-negotiables. You got to have solid Python skills, and I mean especially with things like async programming. You need to be comfortable with APIs, handling data with JSON, and of course, managing your code with Git. Seriously, if any of this sounds a little shaky to you, stop right here. This is your starting point. Master this stuff first. Okay, gear check complete. We're ready. Now it's time for the main event, the core agent climb. This is where the real fun begins. In this section, we're going to climb through the 4 key modules you need to build your very first real working agent. So here's our route, our path up the mountain. It's a 4-stage climb, nice and simple. First, we have to master the engine. That's the LLM. Then, second, we'll get into the mechanics. The agent loop, how these things actually think. Third, we connect it to the outside world using tools. And last but not least, we give it a memory so it can actually learn and remember stuff.
Okay, stage 1, mastering the engine. Every agent is powered by a large language model, right? So you absolutely have to understand how it works. You got to speak its language. We're talking about tokens, context windows, temperature, all that good stuff. But here's the really critical part. You have to master structured outputs. That means forcing the LLM to give you back its answer in a predictable format, like JSON. Why? Because if the output is just random text, your code and your tools have no idea what to do with it. It has to be structured.
And this is super important, so let's get this straight. An agent is not just a fancy chatbot. They are 2 different things. A chatbot, you give it a prompt, it gives you one answer back, end of story. An agent? An agent is different. It uses the LLM in a loop. It thinks, it plans, it decides, and then it takes action. It's a continuous cycle.
Let's make this real. A fantastic way to learn is to build something practical, like a simple agent to help with a CRM, a customer database. Just imagine an agent that can dig into that database, understand a command like, hey, find John Doe's last order, and then go and update his phone number, all by itself. But wait a minute. That sounds cool, but it also sounds kind of dangerous, right? What stops that agent from going totally off the rails and, deleting your entire customer list by accident? And that's where the next crucial piece comes in. Guardrails, safety checks, and especially human-in-the-loop approvals. You have to build in control mechanisms before you let it loose. All right, so an agent that can't remember anything from one moment to the next is, well, it's not very useful, is it? So that brings us to the 4th stage of our climb, giving it a memory. We do this with something called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. Honestly, the easiest way to think about RAG is that you're giving your agent a library card to your library. It can now go and look up information in your specific documents, your databases, your company wiki, whatever you give it access to.
Okay, so you've made it through the core climb. You've built a working agent. Now you're ready for the final push. Welcome to the summit. This is where we leave single agents behind and start mastering truly advanced professional-level systems. Trust me, the view from up here is incredible.
And yeah, up at the summit, the whole game changes. You stop trying to build one giant do-it-all super agent. That's not how the pros do it. Instead, the smart move is to build a team of specialized agents. You might have one agent that's an expert planner, another that's a brilliant researcher, and a third that's an amazing writer. They work together, they collaborate, and they can tackle problems that a single agent never could.
And the ways these teams can work together are just fascinating. You can set up a supervisor agent that's like a project manager, handing out tasks to its worker agents. You could have them debate. One agent comes up with an idea, and another one's entire job is to poke holes in it to make it better. You can even build in a panic button, an escalation path, so if the team gets stuck, they know to call for a human to help out. Pretty cool, right?
But with all this complexity comes a new, massive challenge. Think about it. How do you know if your agent is actually improving? You spend hours tweaking a prompt. Did that actually make it better, or did you accidentally make it worse? You can't just go by your gut feeling. You have to move beyond that and get scientific. That means rigorous testing, creating benchmarks, and using real metrics.
And this brings us to the final boss-level challenge at the summit, taking your cool prototype out of the lab and putting it into production. And let me tell you, this is a huge engineering leap. We're talking about building something that's not just clever, but reliable, scalable, and cost-effective. Something real people can depend on day in and day out. So, there you have it. We've mapped the entire mountain, from base camp to the summit. But a map is useless if you don't know how to actually climb, right? So this last section is all about your training regimen. We're going to switch from the what to the how, giving you a real, practical way to make all this knowledge actually stick. Listen, you're not going to learn this stuff by just watching videos or reading articles. Real, deep understanding comes from doing. It's a simple loop. Learn a new concept. Then, immediately go implement it in code. And then, and this part is key, try to break it. Find its limits. And then, figure out how to fix it. I'm telling you, you don't really understand a piece of code until you've had to debug it at 2 a.m.
And hey, if you want to make sure you actually remember all this stuff, here are 3 pro tips. First, for every big idea, make a simple one-page cheat sheet. Just what it is, when you'd use it, and what can go wrong. Second, use the Feynman technique. Try to explain it to a friend, or even just to your dog, in super simple language. If you can't, you don't get it yet. And third, keep a project journal. Write down everything. Your ideas, your prompts, your bugs, your wins. Every project becomes a lesson that way.
So, that's it. That's the roadmap. From gearing up at base camp, through that core climb, all the way to the summit with advanced multi-agent systems. You officially have the map. The path is laid out in front of you. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?